We're going to be working with Adobe Illustrator, and I thought it would be good to cover a few of the basics and describe essentially what kind of program this is we're dealing with. You're probably aware of the two main types of graphics that we deal with: raster graphics and vector graphics. Raster graphics is where you have pixels, basically a grid with a bunch of colored dots. Photoshop is the example of program that is designed to deal with grids of pixels. Adobe Illustrator is the de facto standard program for dealing with vector graphics. Let's just do a simple illustration of what that is. Here I am in Illustrator. I've got a 800 by 600 work area here. I'm going to select the ellipse tool, and I could drag out any old size ellipse, but I'm going to be very specific here. I'm going to just click, which brings up a dialog box where I can type in parameters here. I'm going to create an ellipse that is exactly 100 pixels wide, 100 pixels tall. And it is this kind of burnt orange color. I'm just going to drag it up here. It's perfectly smooth. It has a radius of 50 pixels. It has a fill color. It has no stroke on it. It has a position on the page. That's the entire design that we have right now. If I were to save this file and look at it, we'll see a little bit more of what we're really dealing with here. So I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as Circle in the SVG file format. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. It's the open standard that's part of HTML5 for saving vector graphics in. And I'm going to just go ahead and save that. And on the screen here, I have the option of viewing the code, because that's what we're really dealing with here. When we're dealing with vector graphics, we're talking about creating a description of a page with objects on it. If you look at this file, most of it here is just saying what type of file it is. Then it creates my canvas, which is 800 pixels by 600 pixels. And this bit right here is the circle. It's basically a circle command. It says what color it is, where it is on the screen, and that it has a radius of 50. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, in contrast, I'm going to hold down the Alt key and drag a copy of this circle over. And just for fun, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. With that selected, I am going to rasterize this. I'm going to do that at 96 pixels per inch. And we have two circles that look pretty much identical. And you know what's going to happen next, right? I'm going to zoom in and see that the one on the right, as we zoom in, we see the pixels, because this was 100 pixels wide, 100 pixels tall. When we zoom in far enough, we can see the individual pixels. So 100 times 100, there's about 1,000 pixels that make up the square containing the circle. On the left, we still see a perfectly smooth circle, because what we have on the left really is just code. Back in the early days, the beginning of desktop publishing, when Apple came out with the Macintosh and the LaserWriter, there was a revolution in desktop publishing, because there was a screen with the easy-to-use interface that had nice square pixels, 72 pixels per inch, and there was a laser printer, 300 dots per inch. There was a PostScript printer. PostScript is a page description language, and it was the first product Adobe made that the invention of Warnock, the founder of Adobe, was this page description language. And we were seeing an example there of something similar in SVG, where you see code that describes how to recreate the graphics that you want. In desktop publishing, people would design pages, send them to the PostScript printer, and what the PostScript printer would be getting was basically code. The printer itself would draw the graphics, rasterize it essentially, and print it. There are a lot of advantages to this, and if you understand that that's what we have over here, you can begin to understand some of the capabilities and limitations of Adobe Illustrator, because Adobe Illustrator was created to be a program where designers, as opposed to programmers, could create pages of graphics using an easy-to-use interface. But what the designers are really creating is code that's being sent to a PostScript printer to be displayed. All right, now these days there are many types of page description languages besides PostScript, and here we're looking at SVG, which is code for a browser to display, but it's the same principle. I'm going to save this again. File, save as, and I'll just put like a RV for raster vector, hit save, and look at the code again. Remember, now we have two circles. We still have the description of the circle on the left, and then we have the description of the circle on the right. With a raster graphic, you have to save all of the pixel data. With vector graphics, you just save the command to draw a circle and what color to make it, where it is on the page. So there's a big difference in the amount of data that is saved and transmitted over the internet, for instance. And one thing that might make this even clearer to you, if I wanted to make this circle 3 times as wide, all I would have to do here would be to add a 1 in front of the 50, and the radius becomes 150. The file would only grow by 1 byte. The raster circle, because it's 3 times as wide, 3 times as tall, that would be 9 times as many pixels. So here we have about 1 page of data. It would become 9 pages of data. So this kind of economy is why vector graphics are very compact, typically, transfer quickly over the web. It's why Flash animations are so much quicker to download than, say, watching a streaming movie, because video is raster, frame by frame. Vector is just description, and it's implemented on the computer. Okay, I'm going to close this and go ahead and say OK there.